and welcome everybody to the second part of our first module, Tapping into Channel, How to Channel. And it's actually something quite simple. So I hope in this video I can explore and explain easy ways to do this. And in the end of the video, I will allow the Pleiadian Council to come through to share a meditation that they use as a permission slip to allow for their energy to come through, or any energy that you would like to connect with to come through. Now, I use this phrase here, permission slip, and the being who termed this phrase, and it's quite common in the channeling community that at least the branches of the channeling community that connect to this entity, Bashar. So Bashar coined this term permission slip. Like when we're in school, we get a permission slip to go to the bathroom or to go and do something else as a child. Right now in Guatemala, I need a permission slip to go to another village, for example. Anyway, permission slip is something that gives our consciousness permission to change and shift. So from this perspective and teaching of this, energy healing is a permission slip, meditation, yoga, plant medicine, essential oils, massage, all of this is a permission slip for our consciousness to change. And as our consciousness changes, our reality changes. So in this sense, the first thing that you need in order to channel is a belief that you can channel, or at least a willingness to entertain momentarily the sense that I can channel. And the meditation that they will share, and any meditation that other channels or teachers share, is just a permission slip that gives your consciousness the sense, I can tap into this. Though all that's really necessary is a meditative state of consciousness and an invitation, and then an awareness of the response in your body, and an awareness in all of your psychic senses of how that energy is interpreted. So meditating is very helpful. Meditating helps us to change our state of consciousness so that we're more receptive. And hopefully, if you are beginning this journey, you already know how to meditate and how to put aside that voice of your ego in order to tap into the voice of your higher self and your soul. And you may find that you have already channeled in a lot of moments in which you've totally gotten out of the way, such as when you're driving and you get this sudden insight, you get a message, there's something speaking to me. When you're in meditation and you're really deep in it, you hear a voice. Or when you're taking a walk. And it often occurs in these moments in which we've totally set aside all agendas, and we've totally kind of surrendered the workings of this rational mind. We're doing something automatically on autopilot, and that's why the other video part of this module is how to get in a flow state, because that sort of hesitationless acting, speaking, doing is really key into allowing that energy to flow through us. And then we need to make an invitation. So the first invitation is to our own higher self. And through our higher self, then any other being that is a part of our oversoul, what some call a higher guide or a spirit guide, can come through. We connect first with a higher self. So I'm going to use some different terminology in discussing this, and other channels and spiritual teachers have similar terminology. Some have different terminologies. So again, I mean, this is why, again, channeled beings will speak the language of the channel or of the audience even. Like the Pleiadians will speak things differently through me depending on who I'm speaking to. So there's many different languages of this, and we have to remember that if these beings we're connecting with are truly higher dimensional beings, they don't have language in their reality. So the energy that comes into our reality is a translation. So these terms are just the best translation that I can presently share with you about how this all works. So your higher self, and again, we call it higher, and we like to think of these things as up there. And of course, we have guides and energies that do come from up there, like the Pleiadians and the other extraterrestrials have an origin that is beyond our earthly plane. Yet, our higher self is also in here. All is one, and the one is in all. So the higher self is the essence of that oneness within us. It's the part of us that is God, and from that level of consciousness is able to tap into those things that are beyond the normal confines of human consciousness. So a higher mind is the translation system of the higher self between the human and the higher self is this layer of the higher mind. And the higher mind organizes. So we can consider that the higher mind will, like I said in this following the flow video, the higher mind will send us the flow of passion and love that we interpret in our heart. The heart is where we receive this energy from our higher self and higher mind. And we don't really know why we're feeling drawn to do something a bit out of the usual, but because we take that path, we meet someone who changes our trajectory. So our higher mind is that force that understands those things that our physical mind cannot know and translates the energy of our higher self into this reality. Our oversoul is this sort of, I tend to get a visual image associated with this idea of oversoul, of a great orb, and my soul is an orb in the center of the orb, and then all of my other past or future incarnations are also orbs within this oversoul. And the oversoul is like moving, like all of the orbs are kind of dancing and floating around, and you come in contact into this orb and you maybe make a connection with it. That's a past life or a future life, that there's a bleed through effect occurring, that certain energies and frequencies, karmic patterns are being transferred and translated into both of these orbs of souls. So your oversoul is the part of you that contains all of these soul aspects. And all of these guides that you could potentially tap into are either layers of oversoul itself, or are other orbs that are floating around in the oversoul. So you're making this connection between two aspects of your own oversoul. So we say an oversoul aspect is, you could also call that a past or future lifetime, a parallel lifetime, or a spirit guide. To me, all of these things are the same. And so I hope that gives you a clear sense of the language that I will be using as I go through all of these videos. And if that isn't that clear, let me know, and maybe there's another way I can make it even more clear. So we're channeling other soul aspects, and we're tapping into our higher self, which is the essence of source in everything, that allows us to make clear connection to these other soul aspects. Now, all you have to do is really invite their energy in and be clear with your intention. Why are you inviting them in? So you can state to yourself in some way, I would like to invite in my soul aspects that would serve my highest good and the highest good of all. And this terminology, the highest good of all, really orients us in this consciousness of being of service to a greater good. And there's a teaching that was channeled a long time ago called the Ra material. And one thing Ra talks about a lot, and this is one of the first extraterrestrial beings to be channeled, actually. And Ra talks about every being is on one side of two polarities, and the polarities are service to self and service to others. So beings that are oriented service to self are primarily focused on serving themselves, what's in their best interests, and they don't see, and this consciousness can only come about out of not seeing themselves as part of a greater whole, and therefore they have to take from the big outside and bring it into their personal reality, and they're not concerned about giving to others as much as they are taking for themselves. Now, the other end of this is service to others. And as long as a being is at least 51% in service to others, they are considered totally of service to others, or not totally, but polarized towards service to others, and therefore more trustworthy and also ascending, because, you know, either one of these sides is like a current. There's a gravity towards one side or the other. That's, you can consider this service to self fear. I'm separate from the whole, therefore I must serve myself. Service to others, love. Everything is one, and the more that I give to the world around me, the more that I in turn receive, because I'm spreading a consciousness of unity. And in a state of unity consciousness, everything is a give and take in this reality. And it's like that song. I really like Bjork. She has a song, "All is full of love. You will be given love. Maybe not from the sources you've poured yours. Maybe not from the direction you're looking at. Turn your head around. It's all around you." And that's service to others consciousness. It's I'm giving this flow of love, and I'm just trusting that the more that I give, the more that I receive. And this is why the Pleiadians and other beings that we channel, when they come through, they're always coming through with this great energy of gratitude. They're super thankful that we are connecting with them and able to establish connection, because they are growing from it, and they know that everything that they do in serving and offering to others is serving the greatest good of all. And they come through with such a great enthusiasm for that reason. So when we make an invitation, we may start to feel a presence with us, and we can ask this presence questions, and we will receive the response in the way that makes the most sense to us. So the questions are you of the light? And they will respond with yes or no. It is a universal law that all entities or beings must answer truthfully when you connect with them in this psychic plane. Unlike humans, of course, who can deceive, but these entities must tell the truth. Are you of the light? Meaning, are you of source, the light of consciousness? You can say, are you of source? Because positively oriented beings will recognize their connection to source, their origin in source. And you will receive a yes or a no, and we'll talk about how you will receive that next. Then the next question is, are you of service to others? Or you can also say, are you of service to the greater good? And you will receive a yes or a no in your own way. And this allows you to go deeper into the connection and trust in the connection, so that you're not merging energies with beings of a lower frequency. And an even clearer way to make sure that this doesn't happen when you start the channel is just clearing your space. Spreading loving energies, being in a positive, open state, having a positive intention, perhaps doing what you believe and what you work with in order to clear your space. A lot of people like to burn incenses, use sound, freshen the space up, make it beautiful, create an environment for you to channel that feels very loving for you, and you'll be much more likely to open up to loving beings. But again, I'm of an orientation where this sort of physical preparation and all of this is less important to me, and I feel the omnipresence of all of these beings and all of these aspects of myself. So I'm just open, you know. I don't need to do all of these rituals in order to tap into the channel, because I believe and have come to know that these guides are always with me. Okay, so how do you receive the response to these questions? Now let's talk about the psychic senses. So we have the same senses that we have in our physical dimension in a psychic dimension. So we see with our eyes, but we see with our inner eye. So our ability to see images. We hear with our ears, but we hear with our inner ears. We hear thoughts, or we may also hear vibrations or sound currents, humming, ringing, toning in our consciousness, even singing of like angelic voices. These are all possible psychic phenomenons. We have physical sensation, and we have our inner body sensation. This is perhaps the most, in the majority of people, this is the most clearly developed of these psychic sensing impressions. So with this one, we may feel in our body vibrations in our heart, vibrations in our crown, and different parts of our body, energy currents moving through our body. What are our other senses? Even psychic taste. This is a much less common sense, but it is definitely possible. There can be a sweetness or a nectar that we taste in the back of our throat on certain occasions when we're in a clear channeling state. This is not common. That's not something I experience very often. So, and then there's also the sense of claircognizance, just an instant knowing. So this is beyond the sensation, beyond seeing, beyond hearing. It's like we may just know, and it comes to us as this feeling of a direct, aha, it's that way. So some people are more potent in that, what is called claircognizance. So again, the words for this: clairvoyance, the ability to see; clairaudience, psychic ability to hear; clairsentience, the feeling impression of sensations and energies; claircognizance, knowing, simply knowing. Now, with all of these senses, we also have to keep in mind that our imagination is actually part of these senses. So a lot of people discard their ability to channel because they think they may just be making something up. And, you know, channeling is a co-creative act. Your energy is blending with that of the spiritual entity or energy you're channeling. So your two energies are coming together, and part of your energy is coming into the equation. In a sense, you are just making it up. And again, when there's that hesitation involved and you're always pausing and stopping and throwing away those energies because you're not certain who it is or if you're interfering, then you don't actually go into those deeper states of consciousness. So again, channeling is a speeding up of consciousness. And that's why, you know, if you are doing, you don't need to do a very long meditation before you begin channeling, and one that uses your imagination, such as using the visualization that I will share, is really helpful because it tunes you up and tunes you in to start to just flow with your imagination. So a lot of people don't think that they have all of these senses developed. But the clairvoyant sense is as simple as visualizing something. And one of my teachers would would say to people. He taught psychic development classes, and he was a big part of my psychic opening. I met him here in Guatemala 7 years ago. We do still talk. He's not living in this town anymore, and we're under quarantine as I'm recording this video, so I am not able to go and meet him. Anyway, my first teacher, really amazing person. I'll probably talk more about the teachers and teachings that have brought me to open the channel. But anyway, he would teach classes on his porch, psychic development classes and classes about all sorts of things. And what he would say to people that was really amazing. He's like, you can't visualize? Well, can you picture an apple? Did you picture an apple? Yeah, you can visualize. You're psychic. And he was really much under this impression that everyone was psychic and everyone should be able to do this. He was one of the clearest psychics ever, who would out of the blue get a message and tell somebody, you have to sell your entire business by this date, and they would do it, and on that date there would be some crazy manifestation of like the government officials coming and trying to shut their business down, and the business wasn't there anymore. So he's a very powerful psychic, and he really firmly believed that, and that was something that really inspired me and kept me on the path. Was anyone can do this, and opening to be able to visualize something is as simple as being able to visualize an apple. There you go. So yeah, when we start with the channeling, the channel meditation, we'll start by picturing something that can help you get in touch with your guides in a clear way. So how will these senses manifest during channeling? You may be experiencing a bit of all of them at the time, and for example, you may be seeing a beam of light and energy come through you, and it may have a color in your aura. You may be hearing the messages. I hope you are, because you're obviously meant to be relaying the messages through your own voice. And you may be seeing and feeling the vibration moving through your body as a sensation in your heart, as a sensation in your crown, and as a sensation in your feet and legs even. That's a very good place to have the sensation. So all of those senses can give you a feeling, this is working, this is flowing through me, and I've got it. So it is also important to not get attached and invested in those sensations, and because they may not always be there. Another one of my teachers told me when I first started channeling, after like several months, like half a year of channeling, that I was like, well, I don't feel the vibration in my body the same way anymore. I don't feel that overwhelming frequency moving through my body. Why? Because when I first started channeling, I felt my crown blasting open. I was like, almost my body was shaking. Now I have a little bit of movements. Then I had a lot of movements and shakes. And what he told to me was, the movements that you were having were just as much as what you needed to see the validity of what was happening and what you were experiencing. And now that you have this more external trust, external validation and trust in your channeling, you don't need that big shebang in order to move through a channeling session. Because truthfully, it was a bit exhausting for me at first when I was channeling. It would feel like a roller coaster of vibration and energy coming through me. Afterwards, I would feel so open and so high, and it would take a while for me to come down, and it would take a while for me to meditate to be able to open into the channel. And I learned with time, the more I got accustomed to that frequency and that state, the more I could shift back into it. And this is something that the Pleiadians will say very often. when people are in a deeper state, especially in groups, especially in in-person groups. It of course works beautifully online, though when I work in person, I do work with sound healing and light language, and I create a space, an energetic cocoon in a way, that sends people into a very altered state. And they will say that feel what you are feeling in your body and in your consciousness, in your emotional body, and imprint this, mark this as a set point, and know that if you can remember the way you are feeling right now, you can return into the same state of consciousness, because everything is here and now. Everything is one moment. And if you've been at a vibration before, you can raise to that vibration again. So something that may help you when you start to channel is remember aha moments. Remember moments where everything felt, it snapped into place. Remember those moments in which you've really let go of trying to fix or change your internal or external reality and simply appreciated and open to life as it is. How does that feel? Because that's the feeling we want to bring through when we open into channeling. And if we can remember that feeling, and we can not always recreate the exact experience of it, we're creating a new experience of the same vibration. If we can return to that frequency, and hopefully return to that frequency at a higher octave even, we open to channel much more easily, again and again. So there will be a separate video at this point for the meditation. I'm going to keep adding on some helpful bits. Use whatever meditation or permission slip that calls to you to open the channel. And when you get into, you can use the meditation that is in another video, but get into that state and just start speaking. Even if it's your own voice, you may hear somebody in your consciousness say, hello, we're here. Hi, we have a message for you, like who knows what they say, but you may feel that presence in kind of your crown, your throat, your heart a bit, and it wants to express. Or if you don't, even just start talking. And again, let go of the hesitation, just let it come through. And know that it takes practice time and time again to get the message through. And again, don't judge, is this just something I'm making up? Allow it to be made up, because again, your imagination is how you tap into the higher realms. And especially those first messages are going to seem like something obvious and clear. So why are we channeling if it's something obvious and clear? Well, because we're not always conscious of what is subconscious or superconscious. We sometimes aren't in that state. And when we change our state of consciousness, those messages that come through may seem so clear, so obvious, like, I've always known this. Even like when we recover information about Atlantis or past lives, there's something that like, I've always known this. Because what you're tapping into is not something that is new. It's something that's always been there, but has been hidden by the conscious mind and the conditioning. And you're making it conscious. So in a sense, it's great. It's wonderful if it seems obvious or clear. When you channel for your own self, you're channeling in messages that are for you specifically, or perhaps if you're just channeling by yourself and going to share it, you're channeling a message for those parts of your soul group that are meant to hear it, or those people out there that are brought by their higher self and higher mind to come to your message. So every time you channel, you'll bring through a message specific for who you are channeling for. When you channel for yourself, which is what is encouraged for this first module and this first week of practice, start to channel for yourself. And record the messages. In the other modules, we'll talk about automatic writing, because that can deepen in the practice as well. But record them, speak them out loud, either in video or in just audio, and listen back to them and see how that makes you feel. We're going to go into a specific module later about channeling for others. Though if you feel confident to do that already, go for it, because again, when you open the channel for others, you then will open to information that's for them, and that's like a whole nother can of worms. Then this psychic portal to something completely different opens up, because again, this channel is something that it flows through this path of least resistance, and the information that is necessary and important will be there, and information that is not relevant or necessary will not be there. So when you're channeling for someone else, you're opening up a whole nother realm. And again, what you're saying to them may seem obvious and may seem general and universal, but you have to trust your guides and trust the reason that you are bringing that message forward. And it hopefully lands well in them, but it doesn't always land well, but it always plants a seed. And also remember that when we're channeling, there's so much more coming through than words. We're also channeling a frequency, and the frequency is being expanded by the words. Sometimes the Pleiadians have even said something along the lines of, the words are really just there to distract you and enrapture you enough that this frequency can actually land in your being. So sometimes it isn't even about what's being said, it's about the way that it's being said that allows people to tap into that higher frequency. And also for this reason, I've thought, and I have also talked with others about, well, if I am speaking information that I could speak consciously because I understand it and know it, and this happens especially as you go further along this path, that, sometimes things that you channel are some things that you've said hundreds of times, and it's like, why am I saying this again? I might as well just teach this as a human. But when you're in that state and when you're connected with that higher consciousness form, the energy you transmit is so much different, and it lands in people in a different way. So a final thing about that is to, the change in voice. For some channels, this is very dramatic. For some channels, this is very subtle. For many or most channels, the voice changes over time as the relationship between the channel and the channeled being grows and evolves. So just allow your voice to express and move in the way that it does. And the change in the voice is, in a way, an expression of otherness. And it isn't always necessary for everyone. For some people, it's totally necessary. And one thing that the Pleiadians say about, for me, how my voice changes in other channels, my friend who channels the Yahyel, they say the similar thing, that the way that they change their voice up and down and in tone and kind of exaggerate some parts of the words and pause, and for her they make clicking noises and funny things. That's part of how they are transmitting a certain frequency, and all of that is part of the frequency that they're intending to transmit through their message. So don't think it's too weird if you have to make all the clicking sounds and this and that thing. Just allow it to be naturally as it is, and allow that message and that energy to come through. And yeah, again, the keys are, we'll go back over the greatest keys that we may have to hear again and again. Be in a flow state. Don't hesitate. Don't question if you're making it up. Just allow it to come through. And remember those feelings of being in a higher contact and consciousness and in a state of love, and tap back into that as you bring your energy forward to channel, and just trust whatever comes through, and know that it's like every cycle you go around in the process, you go deeper into it. So allow the greater process to unfold, and make sure it's fun, well intended, and in service to others. And you can't go wrong, even if you find that there's a lot of your own human ego coming in at first. Sometimes that's just the journey that we have to go through in order to learn how to make it so that not so much ego comes through. And it is a journey that only time can show and tell. And in the beginning, there have been some moments for me where I saw, oh, my ego is coming through, my agenda was coming through. And I learned how to move through that by simply being really open and not trying to push their message in a certain way. And also being really clear with who I was working with. Only choosing to work with people who were well-intended clearly. Because sometimes when people were not so well-intended, or when they were really bent on certain belief systems, the message and the energy of my channeling, even though I did everything I could in the best way, did not come through in a clear way and did not land in them. So these are some things that we only learn with time. And again, it's just like we talked about in the Being in the Flow video, changing your definition is about mistakes. They're all necessary steps forward in learning what you need to learn so that you can be clearer and more proficient at what you do. So there's no such thing as mistakes. There's only lessons. And enjoy every lesson. And really in this law of attraction based universe, the less concerned you are about making mistakes, the less mistakes you'll make. The more fear you have about doing something wrong, the more things will go wrong. So be open, be in the flow, and perhaps just meditate and let the energy come through on your own right. Or perhaps you want to listen to the channeling meditation, the tool that the Pleiadian Council uses to bring people in contact with their own higher self, and see the difference between what it was like when you just channeled on your own without that, and what it was like when you channeled after tuning in through that meditation. Flow in your own way. Much love and blessings to you, and hope you enjoy a very beautiful day in contact with your higher self and all of the guides that are meant to play with you at this moment. I'm so enjoying sharing this, and hope it's sparking up all sorts of connections for each and every one of you watching this, whenever you are watching this. Love, blessings, and joy.